York Mets baseball.
Live from Philadelphia Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Sports Channel presents Mets baseball. Tonight, the Mets take on the Philadelphia Phillies. And the starting pitchers for tonight's game are, for the Mets, Ron Darling. Ron was 16-6, a 2.90 ERA in 1985. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kevin Gross. Kevin was 15-13 with a 3.41 ERA in 1905. Well, hello again, everybody. I'm Tim McCarver, along with Fran Healy and Rusty Staub, as Ralph Kiner is attending the wedding of his son, Mike, to Kathleen Sullivan, and he will return next week. The Philadelphia Phillies against the Mets tonight. Ron Darling, who was 1-1 against the Phils last year, and Kevin Gross, who was 2-2 against the Phillies. The Mets, of course, winners of 98 games and finishing second for the second year in a row in 1985, and the Philadelphia Phillies, a very disappointing fifth finishing in 1985, and it's hard to believe with the moves that the Phillies made, Fran Healy, that they're going to finish fifth this year. They got some kind of lineup.
They really do, Tim. They made a lot of changes. They moved Mike Schmidt over to third base, and we'll get into the changes during the game. But I think the important question marks for the Phillies, the pitching staff, Kevin Gross, the pitcher tonight, won 15 ball games. I think you have to have a pitcher, a starting pitcher, win more games than that, at least your most proficient pitcher, in order to win. They also filled a void in the bullpen by picking up Steve Bedrosian, and they're looking for big things from him as a short man. Behind the plate, they have inexperience because they traded away Ozzie Virgil. They have Darren Dalton and John Russell, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can perform on the major league level.
And, of course, the starting pitching of the Phillies, Steve Carlton, making a comeback after being only 1-8. He did have one appearance this year. He had a good spring, and they're looking for big things out of Steve because starting pitching is really the Achilles heel of the Phillies.
And, of course, when you think of the Phillies throughout the past 10, 15 years, you think of Steve Carlton. John Felsky, the manager of the Phillies, said in his first outing, Carlton threw the ball about 85 miles per hour, much quicker than he threw the ball the past 2 years. So they're optimistic that he can come back, and John Felsky said they're going to be very patient with Steve Carlton.
And Davey Johnson, of course, optimistic with Ron Darling. Ron, who was 1-1 against the Phillies last year, a 16-6 record. And if you remember the last regular season game that Ron Darling worked, it was against the St. Louis Cardinals when he pitched that brilliant game, really the game of his life, against John Tudor. And that was the first game of the Cardinals series, the last series of the year, in which Darryl Strawberry won it in the 11th with the home run. Ron Darling, they're looking for big things out of him this year.
They really are, Tim. And you mentioned that ball game in St. Louis. A lot of the experts didn't think that Ron Darling should have pitched that ball game, but he fooled the experts, pitched an outstanding game, as you mentioned. And I think Ron Darling is going to win a lot of ball games this year for the Mets. I think that, you know, he's been overshadowed by Dwight Gooden. It might have helped Ron Darling. His personality is such that it might have helped him, but I think now he's about to emerge as one of the best pitchers in all of baseball.
The best pitcher in all of baseball. Won the only game that the Mets have played. That was Tuesday night in the opener in Pittsburgh when Dwight Gooden won 4-2. And, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies played 2 games in Cincinnati, and they split 2 games by winning their last ball game, and they haven't won 2 of their first 3 games, but 3 times in the last 10 years. And we'll see how the matchup fares with the fireworks going off, and that's what it'll be right after this commercial message. Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, goes to home plate to exchange lineup cards with John Felsky, the second-year manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, as we enjoy the antics of the Philly fanatic. Young left-hander, and he's a left-hander all the way, isn't he, Franny?
Oh, he's quite a character. He's one of the best. I'd have to say he is the best mascot in all of baseball.
David Raymond, a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, and he is the son of Tubby Raymond, who is the coach down at the University of Delaware. I said Pennsylvania, I meant Wilmington, Delaware, the University of Delaware down there. And the first ball tonight will be thrown out by a former Philly great, Greg Luzinski, who there's the bull in the ring. Greg Luzinski, 223 home runs as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies, 811 RBIs, and a 4-time All-Star.
He's only about 35 years old.
Retired a couple of years ago from the Chicago White Sox, as he says hello to Bruce Fleming. Greg Luzinski, the Bull.
He was a high school coach, I believe, last year in the New Jersey area.
Coached the freshman team over in Medford High School, at Medford High School. Fanatic looking a bit disenchanted here.
He's quite entertaining.
The Mets 11-7 against the Phillies last year. They won 4 of 9 ball games, and they'll be trying to win this opener at Veterans Stadium with this lineup, huh?
Okay, Tim, leading off in center field for the Mets, Lenny Dykstra. Wally Backman at second base will bat number 2. At first base, batting third, Keith Hernandez. In the cleanup slot, catcher Gary Carter. Darryl Strawberry batting number 5 in right field. Out in left field, Danny Heap. Danny batting 6th tonight. Howard Johnson batting 7th, playing third base. Rafael Santana at shortstop batting 8th, and batting 9th on the mound, Ron Darling. It's a cool night here in Philadelphia.
And the players on the field are probably the warmest guys in the park. Defensively for the Philadelphia Phillies, Von Hayes at first base. Juan Samuel, the fine second baseman. Steve Jeltz will be at shortstop, and the future Hall of Famer Mike Schmidt at third base. Gary Reedus in left field, an acquisition from the Cincinnati Reds over the winter. And speaking of acquisitions, another acquisition by the Phillies, Milt Thompson playing center. He came over from the Atlanta Braves. Glenn Wilson, who came from the Detroit Tigers 3 years ago, will be in right field. And the young catcher behind the plate tonight, Darren Dalton. Kevin Gross, the right-hander and the leader in wins for the Phillies last year. I guess you'd have to classify Kevin as the ace of the Phillies staff. He was 15-13, a 3.41 ERA, and he's 4-2 lifetime against the Mets.
5 years in professional ball, a couple years in the major leagues, and as you mentioned, Tim, 15 wins. Tell you, I just think a ball club has to have a guy win more than, unless you can get everybody to win 15 games, then you're all set.
What you see in your picture now is they're trying to dismantle the wire that leads up to the top of Veterans Stadium. They had a motorcycle rider, and there was a guy who cannot go 15-13, right?
No,
he's got to go 15-0.
He better be real good.
He's got to make all those trips, and he did make another one tonight. Opening day, somewhat of an event here at Shea Stadium, huh?
I was going to say, well, here in Philadelphia, they usually have an interesting ceremony when it's opening day, and I believe that when it all started, when Mike Ryan had to catch a ball, I believe somebody dropped it. You got to be having a bad year when they want you to catch the ball from a helicopter.
Last year, the Phillies played at Connie Mack Stadium. The old ballpark was in 1970, and the helicopter to which you refer dropped that ball to open this stadium in 71. And of course, in 72, they had the antics of Kite Man, who had a kite and slid down on skis from the upper deck here, right near where the new scoreboard is being erected. 1976, they had a rider ride in, of course, the 200th anniversary of the country. He rode all the way from Boston on a horse to deliver the first ball.
That's interesting.
Arrived at Veterans Stadium here just in time.
You know, the Phillies franchise really started near Boston in Worcester, Massachusetts, and then they moved here to Philadelphia, and the name changed. They came up with the Phillies name, played in, I believe, Baker Bowl here in Philadelphia. So maybe that guy coming in from Boston knew some of the people in the original franchise.
And the fabled history of baseball here in Philadelphia, of course, I guess reached its zenith when Connie Mack managed this. Of course, it wasn't the Phillies, it was the Philadelphia A's, but he managed the A's for 50 years. Len Dykstra will lead it off against Kevin Gross. And the fastball is fouled away. 0-1 to Len Dykstra. Lenny 0 for 3 in Tuesday night's game against Pittsburgh, but he did score 2 runs.
In a way, he caught a break this season or this spring when Mookie Wilson went down with the injury.
1-1.
Sometimes it's a good break in baseball. It happened right here in Philadelphia this spring. Tom Foley, the shortstop, was injured. Steve Jeltz led the Phillies in hitting and RBIs.
Breaking ball and a beauty, 1-2. Kevin Gross with one of the real quality breaking balls in the National League. A breaking ball you don't often see a right-handed pitcher throw. Of course, nobody has seen Dwight Gooden pitch can say that.
That's right.
Fastball popped up and could be playable. Mike Schmidt, 1 out.
As Tim just mentioned, the breaking ball, these two ball clubs obviously coming from a warmer climate down south, and now the pitchers, after throwing that breaking ball and working on the breaking ball in the warm weather, might have a problem with it because of the cool air here in Philadelphia, and you might see more fastballs than you ordinarily would from these two pitchers, Gross and Darling.
Wally Backman, who had 324 as a left-handed hitter as the batter. He is 0 for 3 on the 86 season. And he had an idea about bunting, but the fastball was high. 1-0.
Darren Dalton doing the catching for the Phillies. John Felsky feels that Dalton is a better receiver than Ozzie Virgil. He said the Atlanta Braves really wanted Ozzie Virgil. That's why they traded him.
Foul tip, and it's 1-1.
In that trade, they get Milt Thompson from the Braves, and of course Steve Bedrosian, who will be used out of the bullpen.
Steve Bedrosian got the only win of the year for the Phillies as they beat the Reds in extra innings. And there's the bunt. If it's by him, it's a hit. What a play by Gross. 2 out. Phillies holding their breath, hoping Gross isn't hurt.
Oh,
what a play.
Oh, good play right here by the right-hander. Backman bunting that hanging breaking ball and almost getting the ball by Gross. Good play by Gross.
Had he gotten the ball by Gross, it would have easily been a base hit with Backman's speed as Samuel was playing deep. So with 2 out, nobody on here in the top of the first inning, Keith Hernandez steps up. Keith, the batting star in Tuesday night's game. He was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run scored. Good fastball, 0-1.
Good movement on the fastball also.
Another fastball. So it's 0-2 to Keith Hernandez. By the way, the umpires in tonight's game, Randy Marsh behind the plate, Bob Davidson at first base, John Kibler, the umpire, at second, and our pal Bruce Frimming over at third. A little duster there, 1-2. Gary Carter, the on-deck batter. Change-up curveball may have hit Hernandez.
Bounced off of Dalton. It bounced up the home plate. Watch this pitch. Bounced way out in front of home plate. Dalton having to block that ball with 2 strikes. You never know if the guy will chase the bad pitch. You got to keep the ball in front of you.
That's right.
With 1 strike, if you're a veteran catcher, dive the other way and hope the umpire goes with you.
Bail out.
That's right.
2-2 to Keith Hernandez. Fouled away.
You know, interesting conversation before the ball game with yourself and Rusty talking about the article in Sports Illustrated this week with Ted Williams talking to Don Mattingly and Wade Boggs of the Red Sox. Here's a guy who's a thinker at the plate, Keith Hernandez.
Batted .309 last year. Line to left center, off the glove of Jeltz. How in the world did Jeltz get up that high? Jeltz certainly showing his athletic ability, but it's going to be scored a base hit for Keith Hernandez.
Here it is again. Hernandez going with the ball. Ball really tailing away from Hernandez, and he got the head of the bat on the ball. Jeltz way off the ground. Ball gets out of the glove. Nice try by Jeltz, but bona fide major league base hit for Keith Hernandez.
And the batter, Gary Carter. Gary 0 for 3, but he batted .349 against Phillies pitching last year. And he had 5 home runs. Home runs in this ballpark are no stranger to Carter.
Well, he's hit a lot of home runs in this ballpark.
Matter of fact, he's hit 21 more than any opposing player here at Veterans Stadium.
And when you think of the ballparks Gary Carter has played in for his home ball club, Montreal Expos, and now the Mets, not easy ballparks for a home run hitter.
This ball well hit, left center, way back. This ball is out of here. Make that 22 home runs. Mets lead 2-0.
And Gary Carter greeted by the boos here in Philadelphia and some cheers. A lot of Met fans coming down here for this series. 2-0. Mets on top of the Phillies. Gary Carter continues to hammer the baseball. Had an outstanding spring for the Mets. And in the second game, a home run and 2 RBIs. Another look at that home run. Ball breaking down away from Carter. He got the head of the bat. If you watch Carter when he hits that ball well, his head really stays on the ball. He has great mechanics at the plate. For a home run hitter, he's a tough man to strike out.
He really uses that upper half of his body, doesn't he?
He's very, very strong.
Darryl Strawberry takes a fastball high. Darryl 1 for 1 with 3 walks in Tuesday night's 4-2 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Out of play, 1-1.
Talking to Darryl Strawberry before the ball game, you can tell there's a change in Darryl Strawberry's approach to the game this year. Not only will he rely on that great ability, he's also going to think when he's at the plate. Still only 24 years old.
Fastball, a high strike. Strawberry does not agree with home plate umpire Randy Marsh, but agreement is not a prerequisite. 1-2. You talk about 4 quality at-bats in Tuesday night's game. Fastball is upstairs, 2-2.
You mentioned that great ability that Strawberry possesses. Also playing with guys like Hernandez and Carter probably will help him as far as experience is concerned when he goes to the plate. You just got to look at Danny Heap.
3-2. The count is full to Darryl Strawberry. That's well put. I think particularly Hernandez, primarily because he is a left-handed hitter.
And I'm sure Hernandez would talk to Strawberry in a second about the approach to hitting, the mental approach.
And has. Ball lifted down the left field line, and it's curving foul. So Darryl's still alive. 2-0. Mets on top. Gary Carter's first hit and, of course, first home run of the 1986 season. His 3rd RBI. He now leads the Mets in RBIs with 3. Fastball got him. So Strawberry down on strikes, but the Mets scored twice on 2 base hits and strand no one. We go to the middle of the first with the Mets on top, 2-0. Bottom of the first inning, and here are the lineups for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay, Tim, Gary Reedus leading off in left field. Milt Thompson, the center fielder, batting number 2. Juan Samuel, the second baseman, batting 3rd. In the cleanup slot, Mike Schmidt. Glenn Wilson batting number 5 in right field. At first base, Bon Hayes, he'll bat 6th, batting 7th. Young catcher Darren Dalton. Steve Jeltz at shortstop, batting 8th, and batting 9th, Kevin Gross.
And defensively for the Mets, Keith Hernandez, the Gold Glove first baseman at first, Wally Backman at second, Rafael Santana at shortstop, and Howard Johnson at third base. Danny Heap spelling George Foster in left field tonight, Len Dykstra in center, and Darryl Strawberry in right. Gary Carter, of course, behind the plate, and Ron Darling on the mound. Ron, as we said in our opening, 16-6 last year with a 2.90 ERA. He worked 248 innings. He was 7th in the National League in strikeouts with 167. However, on the downside of the ledger, he led the majors in walks with 114.
One thing he wanted to work on this year.
And he did this spring. And the fastball is low, so it's 1-0 to Gary Reedus.
Gary Reedus has a picture in this press guide. He's got to get that changed. That's a bad picture.
Fastball again low, 2-0 to Reedus.
Reedus, of course, a guy who had some problems with Pete Rose in Cincinnati. One of the reasons the Reds traded him was because of that problem.
Came over in December of '85 for John Denny and Tom Hume. Fastball outside, 3-0.
Gary Reedus with great speed as Ron Darling falls behind something Tim just alluded to. Problem getting the ball over the plate.
Fastball is low. So 4 straight balls to lead off the '86 season for Ron Darling against the Phillies. In 4 starts last year, Darling 1-1 against Philadelphia, and both decisions came against his opponent tonight, Kevin Gross.
So Ron Darling it seems always facing the best pitcher in his staff, at least for last year. Gross, you know, we're talking about Ron Darling. Mel Stottlemyre said that Ron Darling, if he has trouble with that curveball, can get away with the split finger pitch, and also because he throws 2 different types of fastball, the riser and the one that runs away from the hitter. So Stottlemyre feels in cold weather he doesn't need his 4 pitches.
He's facing Milt Thompson now. Good speed at first base. There's the strike, 0-1.
You know, Tim, I think Felsky probably looked around the league. He has artificial surface and realized, look, I'm going to build a club with a lot of speed. That's why he went on and got Reedus, who last season, part-time really for the Reds, stole 48 bases. And this kid, Milt Thompson, can run.
Darling balked. His first balk of the 1986 season. He had only 4 last year. Gary Carter complaining to home plate umpire Randy Marsh.
Right now, Carter going out to talk to Ron Darling, and Howard Johnson over there talking to Darling, probably just trying to settle him down. Now Reedus down on second base. Darling with probably the best pickoff move at least in the National League as far as picking guys off first. Picked 5 runners off first last year.
Reedus now at second base. The count is 0-1 to Milt Thompson. 2-0 New York lead. Outfield straight away and shallow for Thompson. And he wanted to bunt, but he held it back in time. 1-1.
Ball came out of Gary Carter's glove, and because of the speed on second base, he really had to go after that ball. Here it is again. That's a tough pitch for a catcher because the batter will block you out.
Puts that bat head right in your line of vision.
You have to know the speed on the bases. If there was poor speed, he wouldn't have to hustle after that ball as quickly.
And he wanted to bunt again. Howard Johnson, a third baseman, of course, a very difficult position with good speed at second base, and Milt Thompson with good speed. There's Hojo. You can really hang a third baseman out to dry in this situation. He doesn't know whether to cover third or play the bunt.
But that speed, it's tough.
There's a strike, 2-2.
I like the play where you have a guy on second base that can run. He gets a big lead, and the guy comes out like he's going to bunt. The hitter comes out like he's going to bunt. Drawing the third baseman, and I'd put the runner on second in motion, especially with good speed, because the third baseman then has to receive the ball from the catcher on the run.
Foul tips it out of the glove of Gary Carter. So Milt Thompson 0 for 6 in the 2-game series the Phillies played in Cincinnati. He has the only stolen base so far of the year. And speaking of stolen bases, on cue, Bill Webb shows us Juan Samuel, who had 53 last year.
Well, he's got all kinds of talent.
Ground ball towards second. And Thompson is out, but Reedus on the play moves to third base. And the batter will be Juan Samuel.
I think we're seeing an example of why Felsky wanted to change the face of his ball club and improve it with speed. We just saw Reedus go to first base on a walk, was balked over to second base, advanced to third base on an ordinary chopper to second base. He can do that with speed.
Samuel, who was very successful against the Mets 2 years ago, batting .367, hit only .221 against them last year. He's 1 for 9 in the early season, and the curveball's outside.
Now, ordinarily, Ron Darling's curveball comes right off that table right there. Might be because he can't get a good feel of the ball because of the cold weather. It didn't have that good break.
Ball hit hard to right field, and it's going to drop just inside the foul line. A ground roll double as Samuel pulls into second. Reedus scores, and now the Met lead is cut to 2-1.
Well, Samuel right here hitting that fastball. Good pitch out over the plate. Samuel hit the ball off the end of the bat, and it just stays fair and bounces into the seats down there in right field. And the Phillies have 1 run across and great speed on second base with an outstanding hitter at the plate.
Looks like that ball hit right and squarely in the middle of the line down there.
Remember the days when they had the chalk and you could see the chalk go up in the air?
Yeah.
Those days might be over.
That's right, on artificial surface. Mike Schmidt, the batter. Schmidt 2 for 6 with a home run in Wednesday's game, and he hits this one well, but it's going to be foul down the right field line.
Early last year, Mike Schmidt got off to a tough start. They wanted to tar and feather him here once again in Philadelphia. Turned around, had a fine year. 33 home runs.
He moved to first base on May 29th and hit 29 home runs after that.
Only made 6 errors at first base.
But he's back at third this year. Von Hayes is going to be the first baseman for the Phils.
John Felsky talked to Mike Schmidt at the conclusion of the '85 season, discussed the move back to third base, and Mike Schmidt said it's a good idea.
He's won 7 Gold Gloves at that position. And the split finger fastball is foul tip, so it's 0-2, Schmidt in the hole.
Well, here's that split finger fastball everybody seems to be adopting in baseball. Outstanding movement right there from Ron Darling.
I said he won the Gold Glove 7 times. He's won it 9 times.
This guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. Talking about Mike Schmidt.
Good play by Carter, 1-2.
Well, it must have been tough. That was an out. You just mentioned that play by Carter. Every time I see that, I think of the old days when they used that glove with no break. He was able to scoop that ball just like a first baseman. When you had no break in the glove, you had to put that bare hand down there. That's why so many broken fingers back then. Did you ever use a no break?
I certainly did, and used it poorly. Breaking ball outside, 2-2.
I was so paranoid, I used 2 breaks.
I'll tell you, I had all sorts of problems, friend, with catcher's mitts. As you see Ron Darling blowing on his hand, obviously 40 degrees, so pitchers are allowed to go to their mouths. Used the glove with no break, and not until I had the small one with a bit of a break did I really feel comfortable toward the end of my career. I used too big a mitt back in the late 70s and had a lot of problems throwing because when I went in to get the ball, all I would grab was leather, so I had to switch back to a smaller mitt.
It's funny because a lot of guys are going to the bigger gloves today, except for the shortstop and second baseman. They seem to remain status quo as far as gloves are concerned, size of gloves, because they have to get the ball out of gloves so rapidly around that base.
Wally Backman behind Samuel at second base. He is very close. He can afford to do that because Schmidt can pull, and he strikes out. So Mike Schmidt down on strikes. Looked like a split finger fastball, friend.
Well, here it is again. Ball off the plate, and of course Mike Schmidt really goes up there with one thing in mind, to rip that ball even with 2 strikes, and I think that's a pitch you can get a guy on that takes a big swing with 2 strikes.
And Glenn Wilson had a lot of good swings last year. He led the Phillies in RBIs with 102. And a good curveball.
Everybody's still scrutinizing that trade. The Phillies sending Glenn Wilson, or the Tigers sending Glenn Wilson to Philadelphia. Willie Hernandez still pitching very well in Detroit.
Fastball misses inside. 1-1 to Glenn Wilson. Yeah, I think that quietens the critics when you have a year like Wilson had last year. Of course, Hernandez, the Cy Young and most valuable player in the American League in 1984.
And he was almost perfect.
Appeared in 90 games that year. And the breaking ball outside. 2-1 to Glenn Wilson.
A lot of people feel the Tigers' fate depends on the type of year Willie Hernandez will have this year. Aurelio Lopez now gone from the Tiger pitching staff. Of course, big question mark in Detroit is Alan Trammell's right arm.
Samuel at second, 2 out, 2-1 Met lead, bottom of the first. Another fastball is inside, 3-1 to Glenn Wilson. Von Hayes on deck, and if you think that Darling's pitching carefully to Wilson, well, one reason may be he was 5 for 13 against Ronnie last year, 3 home runs and 7 RBIs. Lines this one foul, so it's 3-2.
It's a good point, Tim. I think it's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration. There's certain pitchers you can hit that you go to the plate and you feel you can hit them in the middle of the winter, and pitchers know that, so they're a little more careful, consequently missing with pitches.
Have first base open, but you do have a left-handed hitter on deck, and a good one in Von Hayes.
3-2, 2 out. 2-1 New York lead. And a split finger fastball got him. If you could throw that pitch 3-2 for a strike, you're going to be a big winner in the big leagues. 1 run, 1 hit, and 1 left for the Phillies in the bottom of the first. And after 1, it's 2-1 New York. Top of the 3rd inning, opening night here in Veterans Stadium. The Mets open Monday afternoon at 1:35. That game, by the way, is a sellout. St. Louis Cardinals come to town. And we'll tell you who's going to be working the games tomorrow. Sid Fernandez goes against Steve Carlton here in Philadelphia. Afternoon game. A 3 o'clock start on Sunday afternoon. Rick Aguilera against Shane Raleigh. And then the rotation for the Cardinals series. Ricky Horton goes against Dwight Gooden on Monday. Ron Darling goes against Rick Ownby or Bob Forsch on Tuesday. And Sid Fernandez against John Tudor. Make that on Wednesday. And then Thursday, it'll be Sid Fernandez against John Tudor as the Mets and Cardinals have an off day Tuesday afternoon.
Should be a great series there in New York, even though it's early in the year. The carryover from last year. Cardinals and the Mets, and of course, Dr. K on the mound Monday afternoon.
Len Dykstra, the batter. He popped to third in foul territory his first time up, and he takes the ball. 2-1 Met lead. Kevin Gross against Ron Darling. Knocked him back away from the plate. Of course, Dykstra stands right on top of the plate.
Here it is again. The fastball up and in. As Tim just mentioned, Dykstra right on top of the plate.
And taking, and Gross wanted that pitch, but it's 3-0 to Len Dykstra, who does have an extremely small strike zone.
Kevin Gross, only 24 years old.
From Downey, California. There's the strike, 3-1. Ground ball sharply. Nice play by Von Hayes to make the unassisted put out. And with 1 out, Wally Backman will be the hitter. Gross made a fine play on Backman his first time up. Wally tried to find the seam between Gross and Hayes. Gross recovered nicely and from his knees threw out Backman.
A lot of times after that, a hitter will go to the plate and he'll regret the out, even though another inch or so it would have been a base hit for Backman. He might take the bunt away from Wally Backman by making that play. Wally's been encouraged to bunt with the Mets.
Wally looking for his first hit of the '86 season. Fastball got the corner, 1-1. Backman with good power the other way. Milt Thompson shallow in center. Line to right center. There's Backman's first hit of the '86 campaign. And he's at first with 1 out.
Here's Wally Backman picking up that base hit. Good head discipline right there and slapping that ball over second baseman Juan Samuel, and Backman now down on first base. Said I should have done that my first time up. I might be 2 for 2.
And look for Wally to run. Hernandez a contact hitter. He singled his first time up and scored ahead of Gary Carter's first homer of the '86 season. Fastball misses. Gross pitching a lot of left-handers tight.
Well, that Gross has good ball movement with that fastball. Some pitchers tend to shy away from a ball, throwing that fastball inside if it comes out over the plate. They're afraid that there can be more damage from that ball inside than the ball away.
Change up outside, 2-0.
And Keith Hernandez does not like to wear long sleeves.
Remember Mike Marshall?
Oh, how about our buddy Rusty Staub?
Yep. Matter of fact, Mike Marshall and Rusty Staub, good friends.
Neither one of them wore shirts.
Fastball is low, 3-0. He's got one on tonight.
That's right. Up here, he knows better. He's got a coat on.
There's a strike, 3-1 to Hernandez. Mike Marshall won the Cy Young Award in 1974, pitching in 106 games for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He was a fine relief pitcher.
He didn't need a shirt out there in L.A. But he certainly needed one in Montreal and still didn't wear it.
Nope. Packman may be running. And there he goes. Ripped hard to left field. It might be in there and is. It's going to be a ground rule double, and the Phillies got a break on that one.
It really did, because Backman runs very well, and he would have scored, as Keith shows his displeasure. We don't have any lip readers. Here it is again. Keith Hernandez. Well, that ball looked like it was off the plate, still tailing away, and he just went the other way with that pitch. Pleasure to watch him swing the bat.
I should say his 4th hit and 2nd double of the season.
He said coming out of spring training, or towards the end of spring training, he was concerned. He didn't have a good spring.
Kevin Gross is the one who's concerned here, with Carter the batter. A 2-run homer in the 1st. 1 out. Fastball is high. Darryl Strawberry on deck. Infield back. There's Darryl. And there's your infield. 2-0. The Mets won 4 of 9 games here at Veterans Stadium last year, and they won 7 of 9 at Shea Stadium. Ground ball up the middle, base hit. Backman scores. Here comes Hernandez. 4-1, New York. Gary Carter accounting for all 4 runs batted in.
He likes Philadelphia. He loves Veterans Stadium. And he's off to a great start again this year. He finished up so strong last year. Very valuable player. Guy to catch 140 games. You just got to look at that base hit again, right back up the middle.
And the batter, Darryl Strawberry. Still only 1 out. The Mets with 2 in the 1st and 2 here in the 3rd. And I mean, he had a big league cut and fouls it back. Strawberry struck out his first time up. Larry Anderson, the right-hander, warming. Change up and a beauty. So it's 0-2 to Darryl Strawberry.
Well, you mentioned the good changeup right there. That was an excellent changeup. Darryl with that long stride. It's easier to change on a guy with a long stride as opposed to a guy with that short stride.
Like a Bill Madlock of the Dodgers.
That's right.
Because everything is kept so compact, I should say.
You're doing him a favor if you're throwing an off-speed pitch. A guy like Willie McGee.
Curveball fouled away, so it's still 1-2 to Darryl Strawberry. Darryl with 29 home runs. He holds the all-time Met record for home runs by a left-handed hitter. 26 2 years ago, 26 in '84, then 29 last year. And the curve is high, 2-2.
And missed 7 weeks.
Man. He had 22 home runs the last half of the season. Matter of fact, he hurt that thumb in early May against the Phillies. Juan Samuel hit that ball. Change up, rip down the line, base hit. And this one goes in the stands. And the Phillies actually got another break, because that ball could have rattled around down in that corner.
They get too many breaks tonight.
And are behind 4-1.
Imagine if they were getting some bad breaks. He hits this ball so hard it doesn't hook. Usually a ball hit that hard will hook from a guy like Darryl Strawberry. He hit the ball so hard, didn't have time to hook foul. And as Tim mentioned, the break for the Phillies. Darryl Strawberry on second base. Gary Carter on third.
And the batter will be Danny Heap. 7 hits for the Mets. The Phils have only 1, and now Danny Heap's going to be walked intentionally. Here they are down 4-1, and they're getting a lot of breaks.
You know you're in for a long night.
Danny Heap walked intentionally, and the batter will be Howard Johnson.
And they're going after a guy right now I think might put together a fine year for the Mets, Howard Johnson. He looked like he started to get his confidence towards the end of the year in '85.
Howard batted .257 as a left-handed hitter last year. He had some big hits for the Mets.
Yes, he did.
People don't realize that. How can you have a lot of big hits, they say, when you bet .242? But he did. Bases loaded, 1 out. He fouls it back. He had a pitch to hit then.
If this Met ball club stays healthy throughout the year, they're going to be awesome. Got to really keep the guy behind the plate healthy.
They're certainly thinner behind the plate than at other positions. Inexperienced Barry Lyons is the backup catcher.
Leave it to that Davey Johnson. Lyons the better hitter of all the young catchers in the Met system. Davey Johnson, a real good offensive player, went with the offensive catcher. Ordinarily, you go with a defensive second man.
Fastball too tight. 1-2 to Howard Johnson. 4-1 New York lead. We're only in the top of the third inning. Opening night, the 16th here at Veterans Stadium. The stadium opened in 1971 and opened with a victory. Jim Bunning, the winning pitcher that evening, or that afternoon, I should say.
Phillies have been in Philadelphia 104 years.
And have won world championship to their credit in 1980. Johnson fouls it back to stay alive.
Talking about that Baker Bowl a while ago, the first stadium they used, the stands in left field collapsed twice there. I'd like to go to that ballpark. Somebody say, I got you a couple free seats at left field.
1-2 pitch just misses. Gross looking for the strikeout of the double play.
It's a great sports town.
The Philadelphia 76ers playing across the street this evening. Dr. J, Julius Irving. If Dwight Gooden didn't have to be in uniform, I wonder where he'd be.
He'd be there. So would Darryl Strawberry.
Darryl, a big Lakers fan. Another curveball outside, so it's 3-2 to Howard Johnson. If Johnson gets on, John Felsky, the manager of the Phillies, you can look for him to lift Kevin Gross. Santana on deck. No place to put Johnson. 1 out, 3-2. And he walked him. So Howard Johnson gets an RBI. The second walk given up by Kevin Gross, and here comes Felsky. Carter scores. It's 5-1 New York.
That kills the manager. He's working on strategy and walking Danny Heap, and then the pitcher walks the next batter, forcing in a run. Right now, John Felsky, who has managed 8 years in professional baseball, 8 years in the minor leagues, I should say, 1 year in the major leagues, goes out, he lifts, is really his ace, Kevin Gross. So that'll be all for the right-hander. Gross, as Tim mentioned earlier, a 15-game winner here in Philadelphia last year. And Larry Anderson will come on and try to stop the Mets, who have a 5-1 lead.
Well, of course, for a relief pitcher, good stats can be misleading.
Oh, sure.
Because of middle inning relief.
That's right. And this guy's been using in middle inning relief. You look at a short man out of the bullpen. If he has a lot of saves, he's had a fine year. If he has a lot of wins, he might have had a bad year.
He may not. And the batter will be Rafael Santana. Bases loaded, only 1 out. Mets have sent 7 batters to the plate, and 6 in a row have gotten on base. A swing and a miss at the slider. Dykstra led it off, grounding to first base, so it all started so innocently. Backman singled, Hernandez doubled, Carter singled in 2 runs, Strawberry doubled, And after an intentional pass and the bases loaded, Johnson walked in a run. 1-1 to Rafael Santana. And he fouls it back, so it's 1-2 to Santana.
What a difference a year makes for a guy like Santana. Last year, everybody concerned about the shortstop position with the Mets, and now coming into the '86 season, everybody writing that first base and shortstop is bankable as far as averages are concerned, and defense.
Slider is outside. Glenn Wilson very shallow in right field. Santana, with not a lot of power, likes to go that way with 2 strikes. Hits this one well to left. Gary Reedus is going to make the catch, but Strawberry's going to score. There goes Heap to third. Strawberry's going to have to hurry, and he scores. 6-1 New York. Good base running all the way around.
Everybody advancing on that fly ball. Danny Heap hustling to third base. Howard Johnson now down on second base, and Darryl Strawberry scored easily on that fly ball.
And the batter will be Ron Darling, trying to put this game out of reach. Mets have scored 2 in the first and 4 here in the third. Fastball for a strike. Darling flied to Milt Thompson in center field his first time up. 0-2. Slider outside. Nice play by Darren Dalton. Talk about catchers anticipating the breaking ball in the dirt. You saw Dalton anticipate the ball outside then. That allowed him to make that backhanded catch of the slider. Another slider got him. So Darling goes down, but the Mets score 4 times on 4 base hits, and they strand 2. So after 2.5, it's 6-1 New York.
Lenny Dykstra leads it off for the Mets here in the top of the 4th inning. He takes down and in ball 1. Larry Anderson on in relief of Kevin Gross. Dykstra will be followed by Wally Backman, then Keith Hernandez. 1 ball, no strike counts. There's a shot right back up the middle. A base hit up the bat of Lenny Dykstra. So Dykstra leading off here in the 4th with the base hit, and the guy who got so many base hits will tell you about that hit. Rusty Staub.
Thanks, Fran. I think this is something that Lenny needed to just get it rolling a little bit mentally. It's a fastball out over the plate, I believe. See how the ball moved away from him a little bit. He went right back through the middle with the ball. It's the way to hit.
So Lenny Dykstra with his first hit of the ball game, being congratulated by Bill Robinson. And the batter now will be Wally Backman. Backman with his first hit of the year in the 3rd inning. He's 1 for 2. Also scored a run as they check Dykstra. Vaughn Hayes, the first baseman for the Phillies. If you just tuned in, 6-2, Mets on top of the Phillies.
Fran, what do you think? Sometimes I really think that we get too concerned over at first base with the pickoff.
I agree.
It's something that really, you know, it's one of the things that Ronnie almost gets caught up in a little bit too much himself, instead of just worrying about keeping that runner. There he goes.
And the runner takes off. Fly ball, deep center field. And Milt Thompson's back. Nice play. Turned the wrong way and then was able to make up for it. Turned around the right way, made the catch. Dykstra was on the move and has to retreat to first base. And Wally Backman hit that ball a long way, Rusty, 400 feet.
He sure did, and I'll tell you, the ball is not carrying tonight. Gary Carter hit his a ton, and it just got out of here. Wally really hit that ball hard. Wilson goes back, and in this kind of game, that's a nice play. It wasn't the prettiest catch, but he got there.
And right now, the batter for the Mets, one of the best hitters in all of baseball, Keith Hernandez. Hernandez in this ball game 2 for 2. He takes down and in ball 1. Rusty, now in a situation like this, you were the same type of hitter, Keith, a guy that thought before you went to the plate. You were a thinking hitter when you were at the plate. You're up in the count. What are you thinking about?
Well, I know that Anderson likes to pitch left-handers in like he just did to Keith. And I just try to make sure I was staying back and not trying to do too much with him. He's got pretty good stuff. And, you know, Keith is so amazing when it comes to whether he's hitting or not hitting. You know, he gets a little fragile when he goes 0 for 4, but when he's swinging the bat well, you know, he's just not thinking too much up there. He's swinging.
I thought it was interesting. Keith said he lost while he was concerned towards the end of spring training. As good a hitter as he's been his whole career. How about yourself? Did you ever reach a point, say in the middle of your career, where you were worried?
Well, I think different hitters react different ways. As I said, Keith is extremely fragile as far as the way he, you know, as great a hitter as he is, he can get very concerned very quickly, even in the middle of a season if he's in a hot streak. But there's one thing about him, he's going to get to his hot streaks.
Yes, he is.
And he's got it right now, I think. He's swinging the bat excellent.
And I mentioned a moment ago, 2 hits in his ball game. He scored 2 runs. Right now he has a 2-1 count. 1 man down here in the top of the 4th. Somebody threw something in the field in center field, so time is called for a moment.
It's something we really hope our fans in New York can avoid this year. That's really not something that's necessary.
And of course they're pulling for their ball club, so once you cause a problem and create a time lapse, you could cause a problem for the ball club on the field. Ball's down low, scoop by Dalton, throw to second, not in time, but I'll tell you, that's a tough play for a catcher, and Dalton has a shotgun for an arm.
He certainly does, but Lenny got an outstanding jump on this ball. I think he would have stole the base when the ball was hit the center field. You know, Dalton did made a good play. The throw's a little high. I don't think if the throw's even down, he's going to get him.
Well, John Felsky very high as Darren Dalton, a young catcher. He'll split the duties here in Philadelphia with John Russell for the time being. 3-1 on Keith Hernandez. And Hernandez hits the ball right back up the middle. Sam Well makes the play, flips to first, and Bon Hayes missed first base. Hayes missed first base.
He's been awkward over there most of tonight. He's had 2 or 3 plays where he's been looking for the bag. It's just inexperience of being around the bag. Here's the play. That's a ball Keith probably should have gone the other way with. Sam Wells right there. Makes it looks like a good throw. And he just doesn't have his foot on the bag. I know when I first came up and they started working me in different places, I used to always work with just putting a little thing down in my living room, trying to work on making sure that I always had a feel from where that base is. And even in the latter years of my career, when I wasn't playing much, every day almost I'd go over the first base and make sure I had that feel in case I was called on.
That's interesting. In your house. Maybe that's why you lasted so many years.
Well, I know one thing. Somebody better send Von Hayes one tonight.
You know, I wonder if I took a bat home and maybe hit the ball around the kitchen a little bit if I'd have been a better hitter. Did you take a bat home?
Sometimes I felt like I was going to sleep with that bat, especially early in my career when I was hurting. And everybody thinks I was hitting 300 my first couple of years, and I wasn't.
Runners at first and third, and Gary Carter, who's swinging a hot bat, is the batter. He's so hot he has 2 hits in his game and 4 ribbies. No ball, 1 strike count. Check that. 1 ball, no strike count. And Gary Carter. Runners on first and third. Darryl Strawberry on deck. 6-2. The Mets on top of the Phillies here in the top of the 4th. And Carter can pick up another RBI, and he does. He hits a rope in the center field. Lenny Dykstra held his ground but scores easily. Carter with 4 RBIs, and the Mets with 7 runs, 5 RBIs.
Gary's really staying back on the ball right now. You can see how he keeps his hands back on this play. Okay, here's the pitch. Comes right back out over the plate. Gary stayed right with it. Good stroke. He'll like that. What a night.
Oh. He's really swinging the bat very, very well. Runners on first and second. Carter on first. Hernandez on second base. The batter, Darryl Strawberry. 7-2. Mets on top of the Phils. Strawberry takes a strike.
You know, in all the years that I played, there's nothing like getting off to a good start. No matter how much confidence you have in yourself, it's always great to get those first few hits and those first few RBIs.
And Strawberry fouls the ball off. So not only is it important for the team to get off to a good start, personally, it's important to get off to a good start.
I think we have somebody up in the bullpen
Rucker.
now, Fran.
Left-hander getting loose. I think the Phils might use a few pitchers tonight because the Mets are swinging some hot bats. 1 out, no ball, 2-strike count on Darryl Strawberry.
You know, when this game started, it was so cold. Everybody was saying, you know, this game cannot be a quick game.
Well, I'll tell you, the Mets are red hot. The Phillies, I'm sure, are feeling the coolness of the evening.
I'll tell you, I was concerned a little bit about what was going to happen out here tonight. There was a lot of ballyhoo about Roger McDowell hitting Foley in spring training, and I think it was overdone by the Phillies. I think they were trying to get their ball club aroused by some way, you know, but I was at that game, and there's no way. It was a 0-2 pitch, but there's no way Roger was trying to hit Foley. It's just one of those things that happened, and the reaction by the Philly people was surprising to me.
And Foley had his cast removed today. He lost his job temporarily to Steve Jeltz. You look at the runners on the bases. Carter in first and Anderson second. The scene here in Philadelphia, 1-2 on the batter, who's Darryl Strawberry, 1 out. 7-2 Mets on top of the Phillies, and Strawberry takes inside, 2-2.
Darryl's shown a lot of patience this year. It's a good sign.
How important is that, combining that patience, but not losing your aggressiveness?
Well, you always have to be saying, I'm going to hit this pitch. This pitch I'm going to hit, and if it's a bad pitch, then you take it. If you go up there saying, I'm going to look for a good pitch, then I'm going to hit it, I think you're going to lose your edge, and that's one of the things I try to teach the young guys.
All right, now Strawberry 2-2, and he fouls the ball out of play. Count stays 2 balls and 2 strikes. You're watching all the action exclusively on SportsChannel from Veterans Stadium in the city of brotherly love. I'm Fran Healy along with Rusty Staub and Tim McCarver. Ralph Kiner out in Palm Springs at a wedding. His son is getting married tomorrow. And there's a fastball, a good pitch right there to Darryl Strawberry. Strike 3, 2 outs.
Well, that was a tough pitch. As I told you, he likes to pitch those guys inside, left-handers in particular. It's a fastball, comes back, just catches the corner. It's a heck of a pitch.
So 2 men down. Anderson now will take on Danny Heat with runners still on first and second. We just tuned in. Gary Carter having a fine night. 5 RBIs, 3 hits. And Danny Heat takes up high, ball 1. Nice crowd on hand. Opening night here at the Vet.
Fran, somehow I think Davies' computer had something to do with Danny Heat being out in left field tonight.
There's a strike to Danny Heat. What do you think of all the changes, Rusty? 20 some odd years in the major leagues, and you've seen it go from the gut feeling of a manager now to the computer age.
Well, I think everybody uses both things. I don't think Davey lives by the computer. I do think he uses the computer as a tool, especially if someone is, you know, in some part of the season where it's very hot and he feels like he wants to give him a little time off anyway. But there are times, and I think tonight is one of them, where Davey's computer is definitely the reason why Danny's out there.
Well, Danny Heat right now 1-2 count, and he slaps the ball in the right field, and it's by the right fielder, Glenn Wilson. 2 more runs will score. Danny Heat on his way to third base, and he'll glide in or slide into third base with a triple. And the Mets now lead 9-2 as Hernandez and Carter come around to score on a triple by Danny Heat.
Danny made kind of a wide turn at first base trying to look at that play. Here's the pitch. It's a breaking ball in, and Danny goes at it real well. He might have hit it a little bit on the end of the bat, but he hit enough of it. Good try by the right fielder, Wilson, but I'll tell you, if there was a real fast runner going here, it might have been interesting to see if he'd have come around to try to score.
And there's Danny sliding into third base. So the Mets now with the 9-2 lead. 11 hits in this ball game for the Mets. The Phillies with 3. And the batter, Howard Johnson. Check that. The Mets have 10 hits, not 11 hits. And Howard Johnson, the batter. No balls and 1 strike. 2 men down, runner on third base. What went through your mind, Rusty, when you were with the ball club with a 7-run lead?
Well, if you're on the team that's ahead, you know, you just try to make sure that you don't give up any at-bats and that you keep disciplining at the plate and not letting, because you have a 7-run lead, affect how you're going to approach hitting on that particular time up.
Howard Johnson just took a ball 1-1. With the opposition at all, not consciously, but unconsciously just give up?
I don't think so. I mean, there are some games where you know, you're gonna say, well, you know, it's gonna be very tough for us to win. And I'm sure in some clubs, especially losing ball clubs, that attitude may prevail. I think on winning ball clubs, you're gonna keep fighting. I really believe that.
So realistically speaking, losing ball clubs, a club that might lose 90 ball games during the season, might quit in a game like this. As Howard Johnson fouls it off, 1-2 on the Met third baseman.
I don't think you see it so much at the plate. I think everybody, when he goes up to the plate, if he's behind, I think he's concentrating. I think it's almost tougher when you're ahead by 7 or 8 runs to concentrate when you're at the plate offensively.
Is it different concentrating like right now when you can pick up that RBI on third base?
I know I would be.
Fouled off. Count stays 1 ball and 2 strikes. In 1975, you drove in over 100 runs with the Mets. The first, was it 105?
Yes, sir.
I knew you'd have that on the tip of your tongue.
They were all tough, too.
I can imagine. I wouldn't know what to do if I drove in 105 runs. 1-2 on Howard Johnson. Up high, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Anderson's working him in and out. He just really likes to try to get in on left-handers, especially in a situation like this where, you know, you have that man on third base. He's trying to strike you out or really jam you.
And once again goes inside. Howard Johnson fouls the ball off, so the count stays 2 balls and 2 strikes.
In a situation like this, Fran, as Howard matures, I think he's going to cut down a little more in his swing in a situation like this where, you know, when you can drive that run in, you know, you just, if you stay a little more compact and keep your hands loose, you know, you got to come out better in the long run. That big long stroke with 2 strikes, it cuts down your percentages.
You seem to have that compact stroke even without 2 strikes. You wanted to get the head of the bat on the ball.
I think I got tighter and tighter and more compact the longer I played. I felt that it was the success percentage that I had to stay with.
And Howard Johnson right there taking that hanging breaking ball for strike 3. But the Mets score 3 more runs here in the top of the 4th, and after 3.5, 9-2, Mets on top of the Phillies. Bottom of the 4th inning, Ron Darling taking his warm-up tosses. When he's set, he'll face Von Hayes, Darren Dalton, and then Steve Jeltz. 9-2, Mets on top of the Phillies. 10 hits in this ball game for the Mets, 3 for the Phillies. And a special welcome to those viewers in Islip, Mount Vernon, and of course Manhattan, who are watching tonight's game courtesy of SportsChannel and Group W Cable TV. Of course, in Manhattan, they're always watching SportsChannel at Rusty's Restaurant, 73rd and 3rd in Manhattan, home of those barbecued baby back ribs, the best rack of ribs in New York.
Well, thank you, Fran.
Well, I tell you
I'm
what,
sure my people are watching right now.
we hope so. Of course, Rusty's Restaurant on Friday night should be jammed.
I certainly hope so.
Is it easy to get a table?
Well, we really have a lot of problems seating people on certain games because people want to come in and sit down and watch the entire game. I leave it in the hands of my excellent managers.
Okay, but if your friends in the booth want a table, we just talk to you about it. We can. No, we can't.
We'll see if we can work something out.
All right. Anyways, the batter right now, Von Hayes, who lined hard right back to Ron Darling. His first time up, he's 0 for 1. There's a fastball just nipped the outside part of the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike on Von Hayes.
And I thought Von Hayes was going to be, and he still may be, you know, he just never really reached the potential I think that he has. I really felt he could be a guy that might even be able to challenge for a Triple Crown someday.
It's interesting. He's got some talent. This kid's 6'6".
Oh, he's been a little brittle.
Yeah. He can run, too. He can steal a lot of bases. And he hits a high fly ball. Deep center field. Lenny Dykstra back. He's back. Home run! So Von Hayes hitting the ball over the center field wall. And the Phils pick up their 3rd run of the game. And you just called it, Rusty, a guy with a lot of talent.
Well, there's no doubt that he's got it. I think he's going to be one of the really fine players down the line, especially if he applies himself. That's always a very necessary part of the act. But he really puts it on this ball. Just a fastball comes right back over the plate. And he really drives us. Like I said before, the ball is really not carrying well tonight. Under normal conditions, when it's hot here, that ball would have been way out of here.
And Darren Dalton, home run. So Dalton following Von Hayes, and we have back-to-back solo homers. And the Phils now have 4 runs. It's 9-4 in favor of the Mets.
Well, one of Ronnie's problems has been not getting ahead of the hitters, and maybe he's trying to concentrate too much on throwing that first strike right down the middle right now. He certainly did on these 2 pitches. There's no doubt about it.
Good idea right there. Gary Carter going out to talk to the Met right-hander.
Definitely. You got to settle him down after those 2 pitches. We hardly finished talking about the first one. The second one was up and at him.
You know, it's interesting, Rusty. Some pitchers find it difficult when they get a big lead. They kind of panic. They want to get this win. Last thing they want to do is get knocked out of the ball game when they can really be in cruise control.
Well, it's important to keep your composure now. I think, you know, Ronnie, sometimes when they start hitting him, he tries to work a little too quick, and it's up to Gary, like he did, to walk out there and slow him down a little bit.
And Steve Jeltz, the batter, he struck out in the 2nd inning. He's 0 for 1. He has a 1-1 count. Nobody out here in the bottom of the 4th. First 2 batters, Von Hayes and Darren Dalton, have hit back-to-back home runs.
I think since Ronnie started throwing this split-fingered pitch of his, he's had a tendency to sling the ball or throw the ball a little more from the side.
And Jeltz hits a long drive center field. Lenny Dykstra back and makes the catch. Not an easy catch.
No, it was not. I know one thing, if you took a cab ride on those 3 balls, you better have a lot of money. It's Ronnie's, he does get over the top here. It's a breaking ball. It just does not come down. It's a hanger. Jeltz hit it good. Lenny checked the wall. That was a good move on his part. He kind of had an idea where he was. He knew he was close. Nice play, Lenny Dykstra.
Yeah, Lenny made a nice play, and as Rusty mentioned, the first 3 balls here in the 4th inning have been tattooed by the Phillies. And the batter now, Rick Shue, batting for the pitcher, Larry Anderson. Dave Rucker was warming up in the bullpen. See if he comes in the ball game. Ball gets by Gary Carter. 1 ball and 1 strike on Rick Shue.
Rick Shue's the gentleman that they moved Mike Schmidt to first base to get on the field last year.
Yeah, now he's a pinch hitter, spot player. And he fouls the ball off. 1-2. That's always tough. When you come up and all of a sudden they're going to move a guy who's a living legend off of a position and play you there, you have some large shoes to fill.
Well, he did a nice job of it, I think. He had, you know, some pretty good credentials from the minor leagues, and I think it's just because the Phillies have decided to go with so much speed in the outfield and moving Von Hayes in that he's just a sharp man. You know, he's the odd man out. Yeah,
and he takes ball 2 balls and 2 strikes. Last year he batted .252, 7 home runs, 24 RBIs. He can run. He had 8 stolen bases. Didn't play a whole lot for the Phillies. And the 2-2 pitch. Swung on and missed. Strike 3. Well, that's tough. Coming off the bench in cold weather to pinch hit.
I know what you're talking about, pal. Ronnie makes a good pitch here. That ball might have just been off the plate and it dropped good at the end. And Mr. Shue is out.
Rusty, how did your philosophy change going from an everyday player and a good major league hitter to one of the best pinch hitters in the game? You talked about being selective as an everyday player. How about as a pinch hitter?
Well, as a pinch hitter, here's a ground ball to the pitcher.
And Darling throws the ball away. So Gary Reedus, the batter, reaches first base on an infield hit, I believe, and goes to second base on the error.
All right. Ronnie's one of the best fielding pitchers in baseball, and sometimes on a play like this, I think he had a little more time than he realized here. He gets to the ball, he gets to it real quick, he just turns and fires, and he made a valiant effort.
It's going to be an error. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I have to give him a hit on that ball. Ronnie's such a quick guy off the mound. We'll see what they call in a minute.
Okay, there will be an error because the runner did advance a second. We'll see if they gave him a base hit and an error. And the batter, Milt Thompson, was 0 for 2. Grounded to second base and bounced back to the pitcher. Runner on second base, good speed. Gary Reedus, good speed at the plate. Milt Thompson. Ron Darling's pitch, swung and missed.
Good pitch there.
1-1. Here's a question for you. With 25 no decisions the last 2 years, Ron Darling is not used to pitching with the big lead. I wonder if he feels strange.
I think he's real glad he's got the lead myself.
That's true. And he needs it right now. Inside to Thompson. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 men down here in the bottom of the 4th. We have an offensive game tonight. The Mets have 9 runs, the Phillies with 4.
I think everybody's going to be a little off right now. It's going to be unusual if someone can keep themselves in their rhythm right now. The snow out in Pittsburgh, I don't think helped anybody, pushed everybody back, and the pitchers are going to struggle a little bit with their time.
And a 2-1 pitch. A chopper to short. Santana flips to first, score it 6-3, and that'll do it for the Phillies here in the 4th. But they pick up 2, and at the end of 4, it's 9-4 Mets. Oh, bottom of the 5th inning. Juan Samuel leading off for the Phillies, and he just picked up his 3rd hit of the ball game. Samuel scalding a ball off the third baseman's glove. Howard Johnson unable to close the glove, and it's a base hit for Juan Samuel.
Well, he's a first ball fastball hitter, and Ronnie just tries to get ahead of him, gets the ball up right in his zone. Howard made a heck of a try for it, but that ball was hit like a shot.
Boy, it really was. There's Samuel down on first base with his 3rd hit of the game. He has an RBI, scored a run, and stole the base.
And obviously is going to be looking to steal another one right now if he was going to steal before.
That's right. They were down by 5 runs when he stole that base in the 3rd inning. Came around to score the first Phillies run. And the batter, Mike Schmidt.
You know, with all the bad rap on Juan Samuel on his defensive play, last year in his last 87 games, he only made 5 errors.
Yeah, he's done a fine job for the Phillies. He really improved defensively.
He cut down on his errors by 50%.
You know, in '84, they were thinking after the season they might have to move him to the outfield because of all the errors, but he cut down on the errors, as you just mentioned, and they're very happy with his play at second base.
Well, there are not too many people that actually reach double figures in doubles, triples, home runs, and steals in the season, and he's one of the few.
So you find a place for a guy like that to play. By the way, he had the rookie record for stolen bases in 1984. He had 72. Last year, 53. And Ron Darling threw that split-fingered fastball to Schmidt. Strike 1. No balls and 1 strike. It's got to be a pleasure to hit behind a guy like Samuel because you will see a lot of fastballs.
And he's also going to get the attention of that pitcher away from the plate. I think that's one of the big things he does. He has them concentrating a little bit too much on him at first base, and pitchers have a tendency to make more of a mistake that way.
And the fastball is fouled back. No balls and 2 strikes.
Everybody always says they'd like to have a great hitter behind them, and that's true. That is great. But to have people on the base in front of you, they have to throw the ball over the plate.
Yeah, it's chaos. When you have somebody like Samuel on first base and you're catching, you know, you have pride as a catcher. You want to throw him out. There you see him on a split screen. So you tend to call for more fastballs. You're leery of the guy in first. And infielders are over anxious, trying to cover bases. Holes are left open.
They might be putting a little string on him right now. It doesn't look like he's getting that aggressive lead that he was. First couple of pitches he did. Now he looks like he's lagging back a little bit. Well, he's got that first foot right on the rug now.
The 0-2 pitch. Breaking ball. 1-2.
He was flat-footed on that. That's one of the keys a catcher can do. If he peeks down there, he can see that actually if he's on his toes, if he's bouncing, if he's trying to get that walk and lead, you're just not going to get a good jump if you're sitting there flat-foot.
And a catcher, of course, has to be concerned about calling too many fastballs with a guy like Samuel on first.
There he goes.
There goes Samuel. The pitch is fouled out of play.
You could see on that play right there, he started digging that foot in. You could see that the leg tense up. You could see that he was more and more aggressive on that one. Okay, watch that back foot. See him digging in? All of a sudden, he's got that hand down there, and he's just waiting for Darling's first move.
It's amazing. It's become such an art stealing a base, and the base runner has the upper hand. You can't beat speed.
Well, I think it's one of the things that has changed the game to the point where I think it's really a positive.
Yeah, it really is. Of course, if you were a catcher, you wouldn't think so. Believe me.
Well,
you don't like it. You don't like it. I thought they should have done it like the little leagues when I was catching. Make them stay on first base until the ball's pitched.
Well, some of those things just come with the territory, pal.
They certainly did. And it's gotten to the point, I remember when 60%, when you throw out 60% of the would-be base stealers, was a good year. Now, You're talking about 38, 35%. It's a good year.
That's a pretty good season.
And the 1-2 pitch, Samuel breaks the second, steals it easily. Again, no throw by Gary Carter. Keep in
Again,
mind,
Gary's trying not to make a wasted throw right here, I think. Samuel got a good jump. There's Ronnie right at the stretch. Gets a pretty good jump. And when he comes up with it, I don't think he got that ball. You saw in his hand there. I think he didn't grab the ball well.
And, keep in mind that you have a guy pitching, a right-hander with probably the best move in the National League.
Yeah, but Ronnie's not real quick to home plate, and that gives the base run a little bit of advantage. Sometimes in the game, I think if it was a closer game, Ronnie might be using his quicker delivery to the plate, but he's been struggling with his rhythm, and I think that's what he's doing. He's trying to not worry so much about him, keep him honest by throwing the ball over to first base, but when he goes to the plate, he's not using his quick move to the plate.
Okay, now the scene is nobody out, 2-2, and a potential 5th run of the ball game for the Phillies down in second base. The Mets have 9 runs in this game. And Smitty swings over a fastball, strike 3. One man out and a big out right there.
Well, Ronnie makes an outstanding pitch here. This looks like the old split finger. And I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year with Samuel hitting third, because Mike Schmidt is kind of used to somebody like Von Hayes being on first base, who does steal bases, but Samuel is going to have a guy, is going to be a guy who they're going to try to pick off a lot, who's going to cause a lot of disturbance, and it might be distracting to Smitty.
Good point. Right now the batter, Glenn Wilson, and the ball scoots through Gary Carter's legs, and Samuel is now on third. So Samuel got a base hit, stole second, goes to third on a wild pitch.
Here's the pitch. I'm not sure whether that was a fastball or one of those split-fingered balls myself. From up here, it's kind of tell. Even on that replay, it was tough to tell, but you can't catch all of those. Gary's done a fine job blocking as many of them as he has tonight.
And the ball that stays down on you like that is tough, unless it's the breaking ball, because you anticipate that bounce. If you throw that split-fingered fastball or the regular fastball and it bounces, there's no anticipation there because the ball might stay down. 1 ball, no strike count on Glenn Wilson. Now it's 2 balls and no strikes. Keep in mind, Ron Darling has to get out of this inning to get the victory.
There's always a little pressure. I don't care how long you pitch, no matter how many years it is. The 5th inning, there's a little extra pressure on that when you have a lead.
That's right. And the ball is fouled off of Gary Carter.
And again, the big thing for Gary to do with Ron Darling right now is to not let him work too quick, I think.
It's interesting. I think that a catcher has to work even harder on a pitcher when your team has a great lead, to keep his mind and his concentration right on that ball game. You almost have to tell him, pitch this game like it's 0-0. Outside, nice stop by Gary Carter.
Well, I know one thing. Ronnie is definitely struggling with his rhythm today. Now, again, I'm not sure whether that was a curveball or another split finger. I think that was the split finger fastball.
Yeah, it looked like the split finger fastball, and it's a 3-1 count as you look at Juan Samuel leading off at third base.
Ronnie is definitely slinging that ball a little too much. He's come way down on the side since the start of the game.
There's a foul tip, and that's one of the telltale signs of a pitcher that really doesn't have his rhythm or is getting tired when his arm drops down.
Well, right now, I think that's one of the things he's, we talked about this, I think, on a tour ago, because since he started throwing that pitch, it moves away from the right-handed hitter. It seems better for him if he comes down on the side a little more with his pitches. And I think it's affecting some of his other pitches.
You mean a split-finger fastball?
Right.
Can you become over-diversified to the point where you're going to hurt yourself if you have too many pitches?
Well, that can happen, but I don't think this pitch is going to be something that's going to be a negative for Ronnie.
Well, there's ball 4 right there as Glenn Wilson goes down to first base. And the Phillies have runners on first and third with 1 out.
Okay. Watch his arm right here. He's not on top right now, Fran. You can tell that. He's just really not there with his rhythm.
And when you don't have your rhythm, your arm is either behind the body or in front of the body. You don't have a consistent release point. Therefore, you're out of the strike zone.
I really think the West Coast teams and the teams that have good weather have an advantage early in the season because of the good weather and less rainouts.
And Von Hayes, it's a pop fly that will go into the crowd, now to play, strike 1. Interesting point,
Their
Rusty.
rotations, get a chance to go out there and pitch on a regular basis more often. when you're on the West Coast in the good weather, you know, you're just not going to have the problems of rainouts like we do on the East Coast.
You know, and of course, these teams like Phillies are in Clearwater, Mets are in St. Petersburg. They come out of that warm climate. They're in shape for that warm weather. The next thing you know, they're out there, especially the pitcher, throwing breaking balls in cool weather.
It's tough. It's tough to feel your fingers on the ball when it's cold.
So therefore, you tend to throw more fastballs because it's easier to control that pitch.
That was one of Gene Mauch's old theories. Be ready to throw the curveball opening day, and you'll be more successful. And I tell you what, I think he's right.
Well, Gene starts his 25th year this year. He set a record, a dubious record. I'll tell you about it in a moment. There's a fastball or a split finger fastball, misses outside, 1-1. We're going to take a look at that pitch again.
Okay. That pitch is pretty close pitch. It seems like when you're having a little trouble with your control, plate gets a little tighter.
And it's 1-1 right now on Von Hayes. Talking about Gene Mauch, he's in his 25th year, the longest anybody has ever managed without winning a pennant.
But I can guarantee you he's an outstanding manager. I played a few years for him.
As Von Hayes fouls the ball out of play, it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. In fact, Gene Mauch managed right here in Philadelphia for a number of years. You played from in Montreal?
Yes, I did. I'll tell you right now, this is the inning that Ronnie is just toiling away at trying to get these last 2 outs.
9-4, the Mets on top of the Phillies. 11 hits in the ball game for the Mets, 7 for the Phillies. Both clubs have an error.
Got 2 tough left-handers coming up too.
Darren Dalton to follow Von Hayes. Dalton, the young catcher with the Phillies. 1-2 pitch. There's a shot into right center field, base hit. Phillies will pick up 1 run as Sam Wells scores, and Glenn Wilson hustles to third base, and Von Hayes has his 2nd hit of the ball game and his 2nd RBI.
All right, here's Von Hayes. That's just a pitch that's kind of up in the strike zone. Von Hayes stayed back, had a good swing at it. Ronnie is in trouble right now, I think.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a tough decision. Davey Johnson, I believe, is going to his bullpen. I think he signaled to his bullpen.
Well, the umpire's walking out the left field.
So Ron Darling cannot win this ball game.
I think we got Bob Ojeda coming in here.
So Bobby Ojeda on to pitch for the Mets. Of course, the most important thing a manager knows, he's got to win the ball game. He'd like to be able to get a victory for Ron Darling, but the game is so important. So that's it for Ron Darling. Bobby Ojeda on in relief.
It's a tough thing for Ronnie. You battle hard, but there comes a time where the manager's got to make that tough decision. The game is always more important than the individual. He gave him a lot of room, I know that.
And it's 9-5, the Mets on top of the Phillies.
Again, I think you come out of spring training, you've been pitching in a regular groove. As you said before, it's hot. It's just very difficult to miss he actually is starting 2 days later than he should have, and he struggled all night. I don't think there was one inning where he really felt comfortable on the mound.
He did struggle, and out of the ball game now, and we're talking about that decision. You coached, you were a coach, a player coach. When does the manager make that decision? How long do you go? What's the test?
Well, I don't think there's any one test. I think it's just the manager's gut feeling as to what he should do at that time. When you got a lead like this, you don't want to let them with their, he gave up a home run to both Von Hayes and to Darren Dalton. Dalton's the next hitter. The game's on the line here, it seems. It sure could come from an easy victory back to being a real tough ball game. So he's bringing in his left-hander to face Dalton.
Ojeda last year with the Red Sox, 9 wins, 11 losses, a 4.00 ERA. Pitching in Boston, you can knock at least 1 point off that ERA. He had 1 save. Runners, excuse me, Rusty.
There is no doubt he's going to enjoy pitching in Shea Stadium.
Boy, I'll tell you.
Especially, there's no green monster there.
That Boston's a great place for a hitter. Runners on first and third. And there's a strike from Bobby Ojeda to Darren Dalton. Talking about Boston, not only that green monster, but you see the ball so well because of that big green wall out there in center field. Great place to hit. And there's a strike to Dalton.
This is interesting that he's leaving Darren Dalton in here. Russell hit a 2-run home run to kind of help them win that ball game the other day, 2 days ago, I guess it was, in Cincinnati.
And now he's giving Dalton the opportunity to bat against the southpaw. There's a breaking ball, gets by Gary Carter. And Glenn Wilson scores. Von Hayes going down to second base.
He just tries to waste his pitch a little too much. I think it's a breaking ball away. Here it comes. Tries to overthrow it a little too much. Knew he didn't want it to be a strike, and unfortunately Gary couldn't get that far out to block it.
So it's 9-6.
Good move by Gary. Just go out and calm him down. Nice and easy now. We still have a 3-run lead, he says.
It's still a pretty big lead. 3 runs.
Well,
Von Hayes now down on second base. Darren Dalton, the batter. 1-1 on Dalton. 1 out.
he looks good up there, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Ball up high. 2 balls and 1 strike. We got a shot at looking at Dalton last year when you were down on that bench with the Mets, and he looked like a good hitter just standing at the plate.
Well, there's no doubt he's the reason why they traded Ozzie Virgil. You know, they just really knew this kid was going to be an outstanding talent. He had showed them defensively and offensively that they felt he was their future.
They got Milt Thompson and Steve Bedrosian for Ozzie. There's a breaking ball that misses outside. 3-1.
And I'm sure Ozzie Virgil is going to enjoy hitting in Atlanta too, although this ballpark right here is an awfully good offensive ballpark to hit in.
It really is. Ball carries well at the artificial surface.
Especially in the summertime, it seems like the ball jumps out of this place.
Right now, Bobby Ojeda is going to try to keep it in this place. 3-1, and time is called.
These are the kind of games that make a manager have definite problems with the ulcers.
Swing on and miss. Strike 3.
Okay, that's a big out for the Mets here. Gives him a lot of head movement. Looks like a little short cutter or a slider.
Good pitch right there from Bobby Ojeda.
Outstanding.
So 2 men out. Runner still on second base. And the batter, the shortstop Steve Jeltz, who's 0 for 2. He struck out and fly to center field. So Ojeda strikes out the first man he faces after Wild pitching a run home. And with 2 men out, the Phillies still trail the Mets 9-6.
I don't remember Jeltz being this open as a right-handed hitter. This must be something new this spring.
He said he's really improved with the bat. He was not scheduled to be in the lineup. Tom Foley was scheduled to be the starting shortstop. As you mentioned earlier, he was struck by Roger McDowell's fastball, broke his wrist. 1-0 on Steve Jeltz. Jeltz hits a high fly ball, shallow center field. Lenny Dykstra is calling for it, and he makes the play for out number 3. But here in the bottom of the 5th, Ron Darling loses a chance to pick up a victory. He's out of the game. The Phillies pick up 2, and after 5, 9-6, Mets on top of the Phils.
Well, we see Don Carmen last out, the line drive by Rafael Santana.
Well, he's got it in his glove there, Timmy. Somehow I don't think it hit all glove, though. I think it might have got a little body and went into the glove.
I'll tell you, it wasn't pretty, but it was a 1-3 double play to get the Phillies out of the inning. Here's Juan Samuel. Bobby Ojeda in relief of Ron Darling. What a night Samuel has had. He scored 2 runs, drove in a run, 2 singles, a double, 2 stolen bases. What a talent. Swings and misses at the changeup. 1-1.
That's been his history, Timmy. He's a fastball hitter, and if you can get the breaking ball over on him, you're going to have much more success. If you throw good breaking balls to any hitter, you're going to have some success, but particularly to him.
Samuel led the Phillies in strikeouts last year with 141. And he struck out 167 times his rookie year. Bobby Ojeda, his first appearance as a Met.
25 years old. He's got a long way to go, doesn't he, Tim?
Sure does. Fastball inside, so it's 2-2 to Samuel.
That could definitely be the old setup pitch right there.
See what Ojeda and Gary Carter go to after the fastball inside.
Be surprised if this hitting outside.
Change up. Samuel stays alive. We were talking about Samuel striking out 141 times. The Phillies second to the Giants last year in strikeouts. As a team, they fanned 1,095 times, and each position struck out over 100 times.
That's a lot of Ks.
Swing and a miss, got him with a fastball. Since entering the game, Ojeda has now retired 6 in a row.
That was a real good setup. 3 pitches right there. There's a fastball up and in. He had just thrown him a changeup down and away. The pitch before was a hard pitch in. Good selection by Gary Carter and Bobby Ojeda.
That's very important too, the selection and the pattern that you try to stay out of, really, as much as into. Mike Schmidt, the batter. Schmidt 1 for 3 with an RBI and a fastball for a strike. One and one to Mike Schmidt.
Bobby Ojeda looks like he's throwing nice and loose. His ball's moving.
Ron Darling went 4 1/3 innings, striking out 5 and walking 2. But at one time he had a 9-2 lead, and with no decision tonight. Check swing went too far, 1 and 2.
Ojeda seems like he's throwing pretty hard right here. He just beat him on this pitch. That fastball was by him. I think Smitty might have been looking for that off-speed pitch.
See if he gets it here. Just misses, 2 and 2.
Yeah, I think when Ojeda gets to Shea Stadium and sees the grass there and sees those fences so far out, I think he's going to smile.
In complete contrast to Fenway Park in Boston, where he's toiled for the last 5 years. Last year, his first 17 appearances were in the bullpen. He had his first start on May 30th. He got in the rotation to stay. 9 and 11 for the Red Sox. Tough park for a left-hander. Fenway Park with that green monster. They say it's 300 feet away down the line. I don't think it is. It looks more like 290. Tap toward third. High hop for Johnson. And a good play by Hernandez. 7 in a row retired by Bobby Ojeda.
Well, Keith's not a Golden Glove for nothing. This ball is just tapped to third. Howard's playing deep. Has a tough long throw. Gets it up the line. Keith moved out of the way real well there. There's experience at first base as opposed to Von Hayes. He made sure his body got out of the way as best he could and didn't let the runner swipe at that glove and knock the ball out of the glove.
Glenn Wilson, the batter. He's 0 for 2, but he has scored a run. And a fastball high. 9-6 ball game. The Mets with 12 hits, the Phillies with 8. And a pop-up on the right side. Backman back. Strawberry with the better angle makes the catch. And since coming in with 1 on and 1 out in the 5th, Ojeda has retired 8 in a row, and the Mets lead 9-6 after 7. Top of the 9th inning, 9-7 Mets on top, and the 5th pitcher of the night for the Phillies, Dave "Smoke" Stewart.
Dave didn't have a real great season last year. It was 0-6 in
correct.
Texas. He came over to the Phillies and had a 0-0, no wins, no losses, no saves. He pitched in 4 games and had a 6.23 earned run average. But when he came up with the Dodgers, he was a hard throwing right-hander that they had a lot of promise for. When he went down to Texas, it just seemed like he and the Texas Heat didn't mesh.
Did not win a ball game last year. 46 appearances. He started his last 5 games for the Rangers.
He was originally signed as a catcher.
That's right. Signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers, even though he did not play professionally as a catcher.
He had one fine season with the Dodgers in 1983. He won 5 games and saved 8 in 46 appearances.
And also, that was the year that he was traded from the Dodgers for Rick Honeycutt, the left-hander, now with Los Angeles. And Keith Hernandez will face Dave here in the top of the 9th. The Mets on top, 9-7. Tim McCarver along with Rusty Staub and Fran Healy. Ball hit well to left center, but Milt Thompson scampers back and makes the catch.
Again, some of these balls have been hit pretty good, Tim, but even though there have been some home runs hit tonight, I really don't think the ball's carrying well tonight. They just hit some balls like as it is expressed, they've hit them a ton.
Here's one guy that hit it a ton, his first time up. First hit of the '86 season, a 2-run homer. Gary is 3 for 4 with 5 RBIs tonight. And the fastball is high.
Dave Stewart, I believe, Timmy, is coming off a little bit of surgery this winter. And looks like he's throwing pretty hard. He always was a 90 thrower.
This one skied to center, and Milt Thompson again makes the catch. Thompson very busy this evening as he has 6 putouts. And the batter, Darryl Strawberry. Mets scored all their 9 runs in the first 4 innings. They've been held scoreless in the last 4. 2 out, nobody on, 9-7, New York on top. 1-0 to Strawberry. Darryl on the evening, he's 1 for 4, doubled and scored a run in the 3rd.
Darryl should have some good swings against Dave Stewart.
And he did. What a play, Samuel. And he got him. Juan Samuel on a super play at second base. Mets go in order here in the 9th, and we go to the last of the 9th. It's 9-7 New York. Well, the top of the 9th inning ended on a superb fielding play by second baseman Juan Samuel.
Darryl Strawberry hit that ball very, very well, Tim. What can you say? You can see that play. You know, a lot of people put the rap on Wally Backman about his defensive play, and this young man, he must have obviously put an awful lot of time in defensively, you know, during his season. And as what normally happens when someone makes a great play, he's leading off the inning.
It's unbelievable how many times that happens. You mentioned his defense. He made 33 errors 2 years ago, and he improved considerably at second base last year. Roger McDowell trying to save it for Bobby Ojeda. Fastball is inside. Samuel 3 for 4 on the night, 2 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, and an RBI. Fastball misses. 2-0.
This is definitely not what Roger wants to do, fall behind. We have a 2-run cushion, and you want to challenge these guys right now.
Especially with Mike Schmidt on deck. Fastball is inside. 3-0 to Juan Samuel.
You think Mr. Felsky will have a take sign on right now?
He might have a take sign on 2 pitches.
3-1 also, eh?
We'll see. There's the strike. 3-1.
Juan Samuel walked 36 times last year. Or was that 36 doubles? He had 53 stolen bases and walked 33 times.
He is up there to hack, but as we said, he took the 3-1 pitch, so the count's full.
He is definitely a free swinger.
A 2-run lead by the Mets here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Fastball is inside. Oh, brother. And that's going to bring Mike Schmidt up to the plate. He has 1 home run this year, 459 lifetime. And he represents the tying run.
I think Davy Johnson's going to the Rolaids about now.
It's only the 2nd game of the season. Jesse Orozco up and throwing.
Maybe Roger McDowell can get the Dougie Sis syndrome, walk the first guy and ground that double play.
Hernandez was looking in to ask if Davy Johnson wanted him to guard the line, but Schmidt rarely hits a ball on the ground to the right side. 0-1 to Mike Schmidt. One and one. The question marks on both teams have certainly stood out tonight. The starting pitching for the Phillies has faltered. And of course the bullpen trying to save it. Could be 2. There's 1. 2 and a nice scoop by Hernandez. Double play.
Outstanding. Roger stays with his sinker. Smitty hits it right on the ground, and on his turf, it's very difficult for that not to be a double play. Samuel went in hard at Wally Backman. Keith made a nice scoop to make the double play.
Hernandez makes the routine plays over there on balls in the dirt. You just expect him to come up with them. Glenn Wilson, the batter.
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody who was any better at picking the ball up out of the dirt than Keith Hernandez.
I certainly haven't. Soft hands. Mercy. And Glenn Wilson takes a strike.
The relief pitcher's friend, the double play ball.
Line drive right center, and that shows you how important that double play was. So Wilson keeps the Phillies alive, and now Von Hayes, who has already homered once tonight, will not be allowed to hit against Roger McDowell. Davy Johnson's going to go to Jesse Orozco.
Face, not that Roger couldn't get Von Hayes out, but with a man like Jesse Orozco in the bullpen who has had such great success against left-handers, he's our ace left-hander, and he's going to come in and definitely try to get Von Hayes out.
Well, that's one reason that Roger McDowell came in the 8th inning with 2 men on. Gary Reedus, the right-hander, the batter. Reedus delivered an RBI double, but then McDowell got Milt Thompson to ground out. And after walking Juan Samuel, Schmidt hit into a double play. And Wilson's base hit keeps it alive, so we'll go to Jesse Orozco.
This is another situation, Timmy, as we talked about in the last inning, where the outfielders are going to have to make sure that the ball, you know, doesn't get between them too easy, so that one hit can score that run from second base.
That's right, because you have Darren Dalton on deck, and the Phillies have no more catchers left. John Russell has already pinch hit, and he did it well, but they have no more catchers, so Dalton will have to hit against Jesse Orozco. Jesse 8-6 last year in 54 appearances. He saved 17 games, had a 2.73 ERA. Working 11 2/3 innings. Wilson at first. Hernandez will play behind Glenn. Hayes on the night is 3 for 4 with a home run. Curveball is outside. 1-0 to Von Hayes. 9-7 game, 2 outs. Wilson at first. Von Hayes the batter. Fastball is inside. 2-0. I'll tell you, an interesting situation's developing, Russ. You would almost not want to give in to Hayes now because Dalton has to hit for himself, a left-handed hitter.
There's no doubt about that, and I think Jesse's just trying to pitch Von Hayes as good a night as he's had, just as tough as he can.
And he pitched him tough then. A fastball rode in on the hands, 2-1.
In the situation Jesse's in, this is not a time to be concerned about throwing a strike. You have to throw to get someone out.
That's an interesting comment. I've never really heard it put that way, but that's so true. You don't throw a strike, you go to get him out, and that out may come on a ball off the plate.
He almost got him right there.
Boy, he had a hack there, 2-2.
That ball was right out over the plate. Jesse had a little pop on that one. That's just strength against strength. Jesse won.
Advantage Orozco.
I hope he doesn't throw another one right there like that one. He had a pretty good whiffle.
We'll see if Hayes gets the breaking ball here. Looks like Carter wants the fastball inside. And that's what he got. Hayes lifts it in foul territory, and Johnson can't get to it, so we'll do it again.
In this situation, Hayes knows he has to protect against the fastball, especially after having two of them come inside. Makes him very vulnerable to a good breaking ball away. It's the cat and mouse game with your mind. If you start thinking too much in a situation like this, you get yourself in a lot of trouble. You have to look ball here. You have to hit off the fastball if you intend to be successful in this kind of a situation. Adjust to the curveball, fight it off, do whatever you can with it.
Fastball again, and he fouls it off. Von Hayes, who had 265 last year for the Phillies.
Jesse seems to want to pound him with the fastball inside.
Darren Dalton, the on-deck batter. Wilson at first. The Mets up by 2 with 2 out here in the 9th inning. Breaking ball to Hernandez. That should do it. Over to Orozco, and Jesse Orozco saves his first game and his first appearance in the 1986 season.
All right, that was a nice curveball, I think, there. Got him out front, just hit a little ground ball to Keith. It's a big surge of energy going through Jesse right now.
Line score on the ball game, 9-12-1 for the Mets, 7-12-1 for the Philadelphia Phillies. Winning pitcher Bobby Ojeda, save Orozco, and the losing pitcher Kevin Gross. Rusty Staub and I will be back right after this message.